Hello guys, how are you today? Hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. So, we are group 2, and in this video, we are going to explain about adjective or relative clause. So, let me introduce our member. The members of our group are me, Rahma Kamelia, Alia Hanun, Rahma Ardiani, and Lala Dita Pangestu. So the first material will be there for by me, and hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get started. So the next is definition of adjective or relative clause. Let me ask you a question. Do you know about adjective clause? Or do you ever learn about this material? So basically adjective clause, also called relative clause, is a dependent clause that modifies a noun or pronoun. This clause cannot stand alone. It must be paired with a noun or pronoun that to form a new information. Adjective or relative clause must be combined with a relative pronouns or relative adverb consisting of that, were, when, who, whose, and which. It tells which one or what kind. The next is the use of clauses in relative clauses. So the first is who, and it is used for a human and substitutes a noun or a pronoun subject. For example, I, you, he, she, we, and they. The example is he is the man who works hard to support their daily needs. So in this sentence, it is describe a man as a subject complement. The next is whom. It is used for a human too and substitutes noun or pronoun object. For example, him, her, us, and them. The example is the woman whom we saw last night is my sister. So the sentence is describe a woman as a subject. The next is whose. It is used for a human and substitutes possessive noun or pronoun. For example, his, her, our, and their. So the example is the man whose car had a flat tire worked as an English teacher. It is describe a man as a subject. The next is that. That is a kind of universal and it can be used for human or inanimate object. It can be a subject or object, and so that is a living things such as human, animals, plants, and it can be also used to substitute inanimate object. For example is, it is the car that I really like. So the sentence is describe a car as a subject. So the next or the last is which is specifically for an animate object, and it can be subject or object and substitutes an animate object. The example is Tom, which is very cute, is my cat. So this sentence is describe a Tom, which is a cat, as a subject.
The next slide is about types of adjective or relative clause. So there are two types here. The first one is defining relative clause or restrictive relative clause. The second is non-defining relative clause or non-restrictive relative clause. I want to explain restrictive clause first. As you can see at the presentation, these types is combination of two clauses that aim to define a noun specifically. We can use that or which for non-human nouns and use that or who for the noun who is the human. In this sentence, we don't use commas. Let me give you an example. I prefer to use smartphone that can capture a great picture. That in this sentence is used to describe the main noun, smartphone, as the main object in the sentence. We move to the non-restrictive relative clause. This type is a combination of two clauses that aim to provide additional information about the noun in question. Commas are always used at the beginning and the end of relative clauses. Let me give you an example. Michael, whose mom passed away 6 years ago, developed his business overseas. The description "whose mom passed away 6 years ago" doesn't affect the whole meaning of the sentence. If the statement is not there, the sentence can still stand alone and be fully understood.
Okay, the next will be explained by me. The next is about function of adjective clauses or relative clauses. What is function adjective clause? The function is to explain noun and pronoun in a sentence. Here I will give some situation in adjective clause. The first is adjective clause explain the subject. The formula is subject plus adjective clause plus verb plus modifier. For example, are the first, the woman who you saw last night is my sister. The woman as subject, whom you saw last night is as adjective clause, and then is as verb, then my sister as modifier, which is the adjective clause whom you saw last night describes the subject whom, woman. And the next example is Tom, which is very cute is my cat. Tom as subject, which is very cute as adjective clause, and is as verb, then my cat as modifier, which is the adjective clause, which is very cute, describes the subject Tom. Okay, and the next situation is adjective clause explain the object. The formula is subject plus verb plus object plus adjective clause. The example are the first, I still remember the day when we first met. I as subject, still remember as verb, and then the day as object, and when we first met is as adjective clause, which is the adjective clause when we first met describes the object, the day. The next example is the spy card shows the main reasons why customers leave your company. The spy card as subject shows as verb the main reasons as object, then why customers leave your company as adjective clause, which is the adjective clause why customer leave your company describe the object mind reason. Okay, the last situation is adjective clause explain the subject complement. The formula is subject plus linking verb plus subject complement plus adjective clause. The example are the first, he is the man who works in my store every Friday and Saturday. He as subject is as linking verb, then who works, the man is as subject complement, then who works in my store every Friday and Saturday as adjective clause, which is the adjective clause who works in my store every Friday and Saturday describes the subject complement the man. The next example is Bandar Lampung is a city where I was born. Bandar Lampung as subject is as linking verb, a city as subject complement, then where I was born as adjective clause, which is the adjective clause where I was born describes the subject complement a city. Okay, maybe that's all from me. That's my explanation about function of adjective clauses. The next will be presented by the next presenter. Thank you.
The next is about punctuate a relative clause correctly. Punctuate relative clauses can be tricky. For each sentence, we will have to decide if the relative clause is essential or non-essential, and then use commas accordingly. Essential clauses don't require commas, and a relative clause is essential when we need information it provides. Now we go to the example. So the sentence is, the children who skateboard in the street are especially noisy in the early evening. Children in this sentence is non-specific. To know which one we are talking about, we must have the information in relative clause. Thus, the relative clause is essential and requires no commas. If we eliminate children and choose more specific noun instead, the relative clause becomes non-essential, and it does require commas to separate it from the rest of the sentence. So the sentence can be Siska and her sister Vina, comma, who skateboard in the street, comma, are especially noisy in the early evening period. That's all the presentation about adjective or relative clause from group 2. Thank you so much for watching.